Hello. I'm out in a woodsy area over here, and there might be like an Amtrak that goes past in the back. If one does, don't worry about it. I guess I'm talking more to myself on that one. Um, but I was wanting to talk about something that I've been thinking about today that's been on my mind. I'm still in my work gear, just got off of work. Um, I've been really thinking about this sense of loneliness that comes when imagining possibilities of grief that haven't happened yet. Um, there's this, I think it's by Mark Twain, something that I heard earlier today. Um, something like I've, I don't remember exactly how it goes. Something like I've suffered many times and half of them actually happened, something like that, which is just to say that so many times we really suffer and make decisions and base our self concept and our concept of the world. We base this off of imagining worst case scenarios or preparing ourselves for painful things that we've experienced or heard about. And that can really get in the way of actually living the life that we are wanting to experience. That can get in the way of going after opportunities because we can't imagine the vision where we are capable, the vision where we are needed, the vision where we are content and strong and can handle whatever comes at us, the vision where we are able to be compassionate to ourselves and not feel the brunt of pain when things happen that normally we would criticize and just assume that we're always in the wrong, that everything is always we always have to be the scapegoat, so to speak. So it can be a little bit difficult to remember that things really don't have to go that way, especially when we affirm that we don't want it to go in those kinds of ways. And yeah, it's just so easy to get in this sense of isolation, this sense of there is no compassionate place to rest. There is no environment where we can just feel like, yes, I am doing what I meant to do and I am worth this and I don't mess up terribly and feel suffering from my mistakes. And a lot of these mistakes that we have, honestly, it's not even mistakes, it's just our minds have, based on traumatic experiences or based on playing this role of scapegoat or, you know, being attacked in different ways by people in different ways in our lives, we can really start to unwittingly carry this identity that I am supposed to be this sacrifice. The way that I prove my worth is by sacrificing my humanity, my dignity, my beliefs, and my opinions in order to be compassionate to other people and let them have what they're trying to have. But really, we're just not holding other people accountable, or we are um, allowing ourselves to suffer without any kind of purpose, without any kind of benefit. Um, so what I'm trying to learn and what I've been learning about online is learning how to affirm that I really, um, and I encourage you to do this for yourself too, but just affirming that we aren't doing anything wrong especially if that can be the thing that we first assume, or our first conclusion, our first like gut reaction belief of how to perceive and interpret a scenario, especially if that's our first reaction, to be like, oh, I always am doing something wrong, like my identity is just like I am just always messed up and wrong, and everybody is always right. Everybody else is always right. um, if we struggle with that kind of thing, I really encourage you to practice trying to affirm, I don't do wrong things. I'm incapable of doing wrong things. And this might seem funny because we know, on one hand, from like a logical perspective and kind of like a self-aware social perspective, that everybody makes mistakes. And it's important to recognize those, but especially when it comes to such things that are so based on subjective interpretation, like communication styles, or you know just more social things, interactions with people, or stylistic choices or lifestyle choices, things like that, that aren't criminal, that aren't, you know um, it really is down to the feeling that you get that causes you to either um, feel like you can back yourself up on your convictions and feelings, and like you have the courage to take responsibility for the truth that you know. Um, or well, anyway, I'm getting a little bit caught in like sidetrack thoughts. Um, but yeah, it's just really important to remember that feeling that we don't do anything wrong. The other person didn't do anything wrong. It's down to subjective sense, and I think that can really help to not care and not take things personally when things go down a certain way, not to feel like automatically there is some scapegoat, there's something bad happening in every single little interaction, and trying to be like, who's the one who did it wrong here. And it's important not to scapegoat other people either, um, for these kind of really subjective interactions that are, you know, just, I guess, adding more weight and difficulty towards us getting through every day and feeling motivated to make the transformations and the changes that we have um, decided are our priority as recovered people who are practicing resilience. Um, and, it's kind of like bad things are going to happen, but we can't take, like, just from a brain chemistry kind of perspective, we have to interpret and absorb as much good as we can in however our lives are structured, um, so that when the really bad things do come, so that we have that fortitude to be able to know that we're confident to rise up in the face of it. So we can't be squandering that precious, I don't know what it would be called, like confidence or just like happy energy. I don't know enough about like neurochemistry or whatever to know what it is. But what it is, like dopamine, or I don't know, whatever it is, the happy feel good things. It's like we have a limited supply of that. So it reminds me of the phrase, like, we can do everything, or we can do anything, but not everything. So, at some point we do have to become a little bit more discerning with how we spend our energy, because we care about our quality of life, we care about our passions, we care about our energy levels, and being able to um, direct our energy towards the things that really are meaningful to us. Uh, and yeah, I guess that's a really important part of resilient living to me, is being able to analyze and understand, like, kind of what are the regular emotional drains that we experience, and what are different ways of thinking, feeling, inhabiting our bodies, all these different components that allow us to have the brain chemistry to keep on feeling hopeful, and to live by our values, and to try to make right and try to bring justice to some of the things that have caused us trauma, to some of the things that we've identified have been like, well, I wish nobody had experienced that, like those kind of situations, you know. I think on one hand, it's very beautiful to say, you know, like with law of assumption, to be like revising your memory of past experiences. It can be a very like beautiful, strategic, useful thing to just affirm that everything is good, has always been good. But on the other hand, it's also useful to be able to accept that, I don't know, that there are so many injustices in the world, and from small to big, you know, so many just cultural injustices and ways of that are kind of seen as normal, ways that are not helpful to people, and that unfortunately keep a lot of people, it, give people trauma. And I don't think we should celebrate trauma as the only way to be strong and resilient and enjoy life. You know, I think that's a beautiful perspective to take. But we also have to remember, like, you know, what it's been like for ourselves in those, like, in the heat of the traumatized living, and the awarenesses, the resources that we did or did not have access to, and being able to remember that, um, you know, there were certain things that helped us get out of those places. Um, and there are some things that hampered our process of getting out of those places, especially in the mental health world. For me, I know that I came across a lot of mental health environments where people, kind of based on their training in school or whatever, they kind of saw me as like the default is I'm trying to like manipulate or corrupt them, or like I'm crazy, I am like evil, I am bad, I must have, like, all these assumptions about me. And you're kind of expected to play this role, um, and will play this role of like unable to affirm your own experiences, and having to just affirm whatever else that therapist is telling you in order to continue with the therapy. And a lot of people, me included, I went to those therapists for short periods of time, but I did go to therapists like that because of this loneliness and this not wanting to be isolated, in this sense that they were the only people that I was trying to find, somebody who was like trained to be compassionate and understand and help me understand myself in a compassionate way in light of everything. But they kind of did the opposite. They kind of affirmed, and I internalized more of these negative perceptions of me. So, you know, that's just an example that I'm sure, oh, I know a lot of people have experienced that, and myself included, and some people are never as privileged as I was to be able to escape those scenarios, especially if you're like caught in like the judicial system or something. Um, or yeah, or just other like terrifying institutions. that are based on I don't know, I was gonna say imprisonment. I think we got a Amtrak coming. You're about to see the Amtrak. Is it Amtrak even? I think it is. We'll wait a second. You can see the Amtrak go past. Cool. Wonder where they're all going to. They're having some kind of nice vacation, I hope. Anyway, I was getting kind of sidetracked, but I'm just trying to say that it is important to also remember that everything we're doing, these resilience practices, a lot of it can be for the greater purpose, not necessarily now, but someday. At least this is what motivates me at some point, just keeping this intention alive. It's for the purpose of being able to identify, like, while going through your own personal trauma, what systems and traditions and institutions and practices and philosophies and all these things, which of them truly helped you along your journey and which ones hampered you, and being able to think of just a better way to the things you wish you would have known back then, you know, and the shortcuts that you now see that it would have helped you to just get there. And yeah, so yeah, I think it's important to just keep on remembering that things can, especially when you've been in such a habit to the degree that it's just been your reality to see things in a very scared, traumatized way. It's very important to remember that you can continue, as you've already done, you've already proven to yourself, you can continue to open up and unfold from all the various ways that you were contorted in order to survive these circumstances. And you'll have creases, you'll have like your little origami creases. I think there's a squirrel over there. You'll have all your little origami creases, but it will, you know, you'll still be able to be perfectly unfolded and readable. If you're a piece of paper, unfold from your origami, and you'll be readable, and then the creases will still be there, so you'll remember the ways in which you can fold back up to assume different shapes that remind you of the experiences and truths that you've learned and things that truly helped and didn't help. Yeah, and just continue being compassionate to yourself. I know it can be really difficult to find this type of feeling, especially for me, but trying to find that feeling of what does compassion towards yourself when you might be criticizing yourself for if you normally would think you did something wrong, or that your identity is just wrongness, you know, like what are those, what are alternative feelings that, you know, you can go through the logical qualifying if you want, like, you know, being like, well, of course I make mistakes sometimes, I'm not right all the time, no one is right all the time, but the intention when you're saying this, the intention is not to be remembering these things that you already know, that of course everybody makes mistakes. That's not the intention. The intention is to be remembering that sensation and trying to tap into that feeling of what is it like when I just feel safe and calm and more open while interacting with people when in different situations, and knowing that they can't do any wrong and I can't do any wrong. you know, because imagine that's what it would be like for people who have maybe been really close and trusting of other people their whole lives, and you know there is a downside to that, like being stuck in um, unnecessary traditions or kind of that feeling of like Stockholm syndrome. You know, there are things like that. Um, I mean, like metaphorical Stockholm syndrome. You know, where you're kind of trapped in a really negative position because you just are affirming so much trust and love for those around you and forgetting that you have to trust and love yourself and respect your own individual thoughts and feelings also. But yeah, I think it's really important to just practice, like in situations, have different affirmations you say to yourself in your head while you are in situations that normally you'd be really critical to yourself. Be like, nobody's hurting me. I'm hurting nobody. Nobody's doing anything wrong here. I can't do anything wrong. I'm incapable of doing anything wrong. And some of it is like even in a theoretical sense, if because I'm just thinking like with Amazon, for example, and I don't do this anymore, but a couple years ago when I was doing Amazon, I did. And so it's kind of like, and Amazon is just in a process of growing, let's say, or maybe it never will be out of that and it'll just always feed on instability and chaos. I don't know. Let's affirm that it does find a way to be stable, especially with like more hubs and local, very very small local deliverers who can have the time to do everything super specific and perfect. But anyway, it's like we would get these routes that were way too many packages to be able to do everything accurately, to be able to put everything always exactly where it's requested, um, all this stuff, right? And so people would just get in the habit of putting things where they weren't supposed to be, or not being very thorough and respectful, and that makes it so that like the routes would be from AI, like the routes would be programmed to be too big than what you can actually handle, because all the managers would just always be like angry and bullying and being like, you know, you gotta go faster, faster, faster. We do not bring packages back. And it would just kind of force you, if you wanted to keep your job, or especially if you didn't feel like you had the stability in your life to risk another job and you wanted to like stay on their good side, and you'd never been familiar with standing up for yourself, like me, like I fell into that. Like you would just be like, okay, get it off the van. And so in those kind of circumstances, it's like on one hand, you know you're doing something wrong. Like in an ideal world and in our hearts and souls, we want things to feel good, to feel beautiful. We have this innate desire and love for beauty. I have this book that I haven't read all of yet. It's called Divine Beauty by, I think, John O'Donohue. Is that his name? But it's just talking about like humanity's innate need for beauty, and our recognition and call for it, just things that are balanced and beautiful. And so on one hand, of course, we, in those situations, working, delivering Amazon packages, we can recognize like it's not going where it needs to be. Like we're not being ethical. Like if I was them, like I'd feel sad. I would feel like a little bit like mistreated, or like I paid for a service, I didn't get it. Like not even angry, but just feeling like, you know, if you like, it's kind of like if you let down an animal that you're supposed to take care of, you know, like that kind of feeling. And you feel like, oh my god, like the animal is like, the animal is depending on me, you know, like that kind of feeling, just like feeling like bad, not scared because someone's angry, but just like guilty. Although anger did happen too, which is too much to kind of explain the things that were on our plates. But so all of that is just to say that while we do acknowledge that sometimes what we do is not right, it's still right. Given the practical, real world circumstances we're in, and that we're like, our mind is geared in the appropriate way to try to take best care of ourselves and put ourselves in the most advantageous position that we can, especially to try to just get by so that we can, get better opportunities. Um, like, just like trying to get by so we can keep everything stable and then try to get towards those better opportunities, you know? And it especially sucks when it comes to compatibility, when we're stuck or feel stuck, but sometimes we really are stuck. Even just philosophically, or because of like a mindset and beliefs, being stuck in a position that we're not compatible with, and so it creates this doesn't line up, where we know that that given everything as it stands, all the information, including who we are, our history, factors beyond our control and in our control, how we were raised, our ancestors, like resources we did or did not have access to growing up, all these things, it means that what occurs is like what's right in a way, what is like the only thing that can emerge. It's kind of like if you're growing plants. If you're growing plants, whatever is going to happen is right based on the ingredients that I had access to. So on one hand, yeah, I think it's important to remember, always have compassion for yourself. And that's just one example of compassion. I think that type of metaphor can be applied to a lot of different situations. Just this sense that even if it's not right in some kind of idealistic sense, it's still right in like the practical, like I don't know where I'm going for, like grit. Is it grit or like the kind of like rebellion, like, no, this actually is perfect given everything that I had access to. Exactly what I'm doing and how I'm doing it is perfect. Like someone do better. Show me how you do better. If you're in my exact circumstances, like I need help, I need other ingredients in order to be able to have things be a different way. And even who's to say that it should be a different way, and what is the motivations of people saying it should be a different way. So yeah, this is just the kind of things on my mind when it comes to compassion and practicing compassion for ourselves, and the ability to, I think it's baby steps towards learning how to actually like just instinctively feel and instinctively sense a different identity, self-concept, and sense of who we are in the world in relation to other people, and our kind of like knee-jerk assumptions of how other people will behave or think about us, or all these things. It's, I think the first steps, at least for me right now, it is kind of coming from a do I want to say indignant perspective, just like a I don't know, a little bit like angry, like justice is needed, help is needed, like compassion is needed and required, and defending ourselves is required, especially if we're people who have grown up and been in many environments where we have learned not to defend ourselves, or we believe that there's something wrong with defending ourselves that makes us a bad person to defend ourselves, or anything like that. So yeah, thank you for listening. I know this is a really long video, but I affirm for you that everything's working out in your highest favor, and keep on keep on the good everyday practices of just reminding you that your resilience is innate. And yes, there's a learning curve and things that we don't know yet, but that's true for everybody. And don't forget to enjoy your life, and to take pride and enjoyment in yourself, and you being an embodied being, and what you want to experience and do and feel while you're here for a limited time only. Anyway, take care. Until next time. Bye.